Yo, welcome to Spectator Sporting. I'm Zach Roach, along with my partner, Mr. Adi Wiley. We got a big show for y'all today. We talking boxers, and it's my turn. So I'm gonna give my 1990s top 5 boxers, and to critique me and to tell me I'm wrong, I brought T.I.M.E with me. We brought Byron with us as well too. So, and Adi's probably gonna tell me I'm wrong too, but it's okay. That's what we here for. Let's talk about the 90s top 5 boxers. I'm just gonna get into it. So I'm gonna start with number 5. Mr. the British sensation, Lennox Lewis. Mm-hmm. Lennox Lewis was a monster in the 90s, had some epic fights, beat Evander Holyfield, people say twice, right, but he really only got counted for one.
The other one was a draw.
The other one was a draw. You had we talked about off air, some things I learned that it was a championship fight, was supposed to be for him and Riddick Bowe. Didn't happen because of contractual, and Riddick Bowe gave up the belt, and that's how Lennox Lewis became the champion. Right. Had maybe he could have been higher on this list, but the Oliver McCall loss, that was a big upset, even though he came back in '97 and redeemed himself. True. You know, but Lennox Lewis was one of the best, as far as he was a big guy, but his boxing skills was off the charts.
A mess.
Yeah, so and Lennox Lewis was a beast. Let's go to number 4. James Toney.
Oh boy. Oh
James
boy.
Toney, yes. Wow. You know, he beat Michael Nunn for the IBF championship. Yes, I told y'all. James Toney fought everybody. He fought Roy Jones. The man really put in that work. He actually was said he was one of the best cruiserweights, but he was actually 20 pounds over than what he was going in those fights. Mm-hmm. But he still was able to win a lot of fights. His first title defense, he beat Frank in like 60 seconds. So he did a lot of numbers.
Definitely had hand speed.
Yep.
He did.
Number 3.
For a big guy.
Bernard Hopkins.
Yes,
Bernard Hopkins. Only lost in the 90s was to Roy Jones Jr. in 1993. And that was his only time he lost. The man was impeccable. He beat a lot of people, and Bernard Hopkins deserves a lot of credit. And he just stopped fighting, probably a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But
like yesterday.
Here's where it gets tricky. And Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker, number 2. Yes. Started in the 90s. He came in. Remember, '89. He had he was Boxer of the Year, and it started in '90 as the reigning IBF and WBC lightweight champion. And he also won titles at 140 and 154. You know, he had some mega fights. Julio Cesar Chavez.
Philly Shell.
Listen.
Philly Shell.
He didn't get the, that was one fight he probably got robbed in.
Definitely got robbed.
Right.
Absolutely.
Also, Ramirez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got robbed against Ramirez. So he got his get back on.
He got his get back on Ramirez. Another fight that people speculate, I don't know, because this could have went either way to me, the De La Hoya fight in '90.
Oh, boy.
Great fight. Great fight.
That's one of the best fights I've ever seen right there.
He was long in the tooth, too.
Right. Yeah. And then in '99, he lost to Trinidad, but I think he was like past his
prime.
And also when he went to fight De La Hoya, he was going through some personal issues behind the scenes, and he still almost beat Oscar De La Hoya, and that's when De La Hoya was just coming into his own.
He was the man.
So Sweet People never. I mean, this is me being a fan.
Nice.
That's one of my favorite boxers I ever loved to watch. He kind of was Mayweather before Mayweather.
Yeah.
With that defensive skill,
that
speed,
though. More offensive.
A little more offensive. Yes. Absolutely. But Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker was a beast, and he don't get the credit he deserved.
Facts.
Number 1.
Let's go.
I forgot. What was that song he came out with? You must have forgot. You must have forgot. Mr. Roy Jones Jr.
Roy now.
Listen, man.
This is a blasphemous topic.
Man, yeah. Roy Jones Jr. IBF, WBA. Not only that, he switched. He went up to fight James Toney. Went up in weight and beat the brakes off James Toney. One of the most epic fights you will ever see. Like, because that was as much as Roy Jones is great, and as much as he's like, he was actually the underdog in that fight.
Yes.
Whoa.
He moved up to super middleweight to fight him for the IBF championship, and he made James Toney look mediocre. James Toney was a 1991 fighter of the year, and he went against him, and Toney was the champ. And the commentary was like, man, we don't know who's going to win. I think James Toney's going to win. And he totally dominated James Toney.
There we go.
Another legend story. The man beat Bernard Hopkins with a broken hand.
Yes.
The man outpointed Bernard Hopkins with a broken hand. Broken hand.
Forgot, bro.
He lost one fight to Montel Griffin. But guess what?
DQ.
When they rematched, he knocked him out in 2 minutes and 24 seconds in the first round.
The loss was a disqualification.
Yeah,
He didn't win.
technically. Technically, you're right. So, Roy Jones, his career, his immaculate style, he had the power, the speed.
Best pound for pound we ever seen.
Immaculate is the right word.
Yes, Roy Jones was a problem, and he goes out as my number one guy from the 90s.
Nice.
Wow.
And I love Byron saying, wow, so I'm going to go to you, Byron. What discrepancies you have on my list?
Let's go.
Let me know.
Let's go.
Did I do good? Did I do okay?
Roach, you did the best that you could. That's what I say to my daughter.
Yeah, that's what I say, my
You did
child.
the best thing
Children
that you could. Listen, it took me weeks to go over this list. I think like picking the top five, it's very difficult to pick the top five in a couple decades, the 90s and the 2000s. There are so many stars, so many future Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You literally can't go wrong. You can pick it per fandom, you can pick it per fights that you enjoy.
Personal
But
preference.
this decade was loaded with talent. And for me, the 90s is very, very, very much a decade where it was the last decade that American heavyweights dominated the landscape.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And therefore, I feel that a list of a top five should reflect that. I'm talking the heavyweight championship switched hands over 11 times. And so if you want to talk about top fives, then you might want to talk about my top five. Because at number 5, I have Roy Jones Jr. Wow. Roy Jones Jr. is, for everything that Roach said, to put him one. He deserves to be on the list because he had a style that you hadn't seen. And it was very fluent. When he was in the ring, it was like you watching this man dance underwater. And he made people look foolish. True. He outboxed a lot of great talent.
True.
And therefore, he is number 5 on my list.
True.
And at number 4, I don't think you can have a top 5 with a list that you don't mention the name Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe, 43 wins, 33 knockouts to 1 defeat. And we're talking about notable wins. This man beat Evander Holyfield twice, Tommy Morrison and Andrew Galata. And Riddick Bowe, very decorated amateur fighter, but had a problem as far as management that kind of dimmed his light in the 90s. But you will not find a more violent and a more accurate heavyweight boxer in the history of the sport. There's a lot of people that have Riddick Bowe in their top 3 of heavyweights of all time. The man was very powerful. The man was a very good fighter.
From Brooklyn, like Mike Tyson.
He was close on my
number
list.
3, and at number 3, I said no one will have my top 5. At number 3, I have Oscar De La Hoya. And the reason why you have Oscar De La Hoya at number 3 is Oscar De La Hoya beat a lot of big name talents. This man was called the Golden Boy for a reason because he came into boxing very, very hyped prodigy, and he delivered. I'm talking 2 wins over Julio Cesar Chavez. He beat Jeff Mayweather. He beat Pernell Whitaker. He beat Hector Camacho. He beat Ike Forte. This man beat everybody. He beat everybody. And so when I was shaping this list, I said that it's so many ways you can go with it. For me, I want to see the top talent that you defeated in this decade. Yeah. And so the top talent is what got into my top 5. So with that being said, at number 2, I will have to put one Lennox Lewis. And so Lennox Lewis is my number 2. And the reason why Lennox Lewis is number 2 is because Lennox Lewis finished the decade as the man at the heavyweight division. Right. And also, it was really relevant. I'm sorry. The reason why it was relevant was because it was the last time that we saw the heavyweight championship in America. It went away for a while when he took it.
Yeah.
And so when he
Yeah.
took that title, it was gone for a while because the Klitschko era was coming, and there was a lot of eras to where the American heavyweight division
it was done.
turned to next to nothing.
It was done.
And so him being the champion at the end, and so it won Evander Holyfield, man.
Oh, that is a shock.
And this is the
You
reason
caught me
why.
off guard with that one.
And I know. But this is the thing. Evander Holyfield, 7 title defenses. Remember, we're talking about a time where there was a ring around the rosy with the heavyweight titles, with the heavyweight division.
Oh boy.
And Evander Holyfield fought everybody.
That's a fact. He
Evander
definitely did.
Holyfield
Never ducked anything.
didn't duck
Gotta give him credit
He's
for it.
anti-duck.
Yeah, he fought everybody. That's a
Evander
fact.
Holyfield beat Michael Moore.
He was clamoring for Tyson
He
before
beat Mike
anybody ever
Tyson.
did.
He beat Mike Tyson twice.
Yes.
He beat George Foreman. He
Yeah.
beat Riddick Bowe. He beat Larry Holmes. He beat Buster Douglas. Holyfield beat everybody. And the only thing that slowed down was his age. But the wars that he gave us, the sacrifice of his body that he
Riddick
gave
Bowe,
fans,
George Foreman.
I will never forget. I will never forget Holyfield Tyson. I will never forget. I mean, Tyson took a bite out of this guy. I will never forget.
Because he was headbutting him. That's the story.
And he was
But
getting
he had
beat
no
up.
choice.
But he was getting
He had no
beat up.
choice.
He was getting beat
You
up
were getting
too.
punched.
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield at number 1, and I know, I made this list based on the Hall of Fame, and you look at the resumes and the guys on this man's roster that are in the Hall of Fame, and I'm telling you, you can put him up against a lot of fighters today, and they don't pan out to what Evander Holyfield was in the 90s. He was a very dominant heavyweight, and again, this was a division that was so good and so deep that you can lose to anybody. You can lose to anybody, and he beat everybody. So that's my number 1.
I'm not mad at that list. That's actually a pretty good list.
wild.
So let's just go through. That's actually a pretty good list, but it's definitely gonna be some combo. So
Yes, what?
1, Evander Holyfield. 2, Lennox Lewis. The Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, number 3.
Riddick Bowe,
and Roy Jones at number 5. I'm not mad at that list. I'm not mad at all. So Tion, he obviously has some discrepancies with my list. How do you feel about my list?
Hello, beautiful people. Your list is a little flawed. It's just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay.
But like Byron said, there's so many greats of the era.
Yeah.
Like 5 people are gonna get in the top 5. 5 people gonna get left off.
Yeah, that's true.
At minimum,
Yeah.
5. So my list, I'll start at 5. Pernell Whitaker.
Sweet pea.
I just felt like we talked about the comparisons to Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
He was more offensive though.
He was a little more. Yep, he was a good.
A lot more offensive. He hunted. He hunted out of the Philly shell the way we haven't seen since him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't go far as back as 75 or something like that. But it was a thing. And I'm going to be brief with mine. Evander Holyfield.
Number 4. I like that.
I just feel like what Byron said, like, and I'm not trying to disrepute his pick as Evander at number 1. What I'm saying is he has to be on the list. Period. Like, the dude was a warrior. He's been a warrior for so long. He's been a warrior, and the boxing skills underrated. You know what I mean?
And he was an undersized heavyweight too.
Yeah.
A little guy. He was really a little guy. Even though we saw his stature, his physique, he was a little guy. So you know what I'm saying? My 3rd, Roy Jones. I think Roy Jones Jr., to me, if we're debating primes, I think Roy Jones Jr. has the best prime that we've ever seen.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
But he wasn't in his prime in the 90s.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that. He wasn't at the best. He wasn't at the best in his prime.
I don't know. I mean, the prime is at the pinnacle of your career.
But the prime
In the 90s?
spans years.
He ended the 90s with like every belt.
I think he entered the prime. He entered his prime in the 90s. I think the pinnacle of his prime was like 5 years later.
No, time out. In Roy Jones Jr. career went on a downturn in 2003 after he lost those 25 pounds, after he fought Ruiz to get the heavyweight championship.
The heavyweight, light heavy,
and then he went back down in weight, and then my man, and then that was 2003.
His prime Glenn Johnson after that.
His prime was the 90s. His prime was the 90s.
So you're saying 98 to 99 was the prime Roy Jones?
98 to 90.
I'm gonna say from 93.
He
93.
fought.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 93.
He beat Bernard Hopkins in 93. And
I think he had a hell of a run.
He beat James
I think
Roy.
Roy Jones might have had like a 10, 12 year prime.
Like Roy Jones had a run.
Let's be clear.
He had a
He
run.
beat James Toney in 94.
Yeah, like he had a run.
Yeah.
And so again, I think the best prime of any boxer I've ever seen, and I love Floyd. I love Manny Pacquiao, because I feel like those three fighters should be in that mention. And I'm gonna be honest, to give you a little kudos, I think Manny's prime is way better than Floyd's. And I've never said that on air, so I'm gonna say it now. I think if we talk about prime and we're just judging when they were at their best, I think Manny Pacquiao is a close second behind Roy Jones. But I think Roy Jones has the best prime we ever seen. After Roy, Julio Cesar Chavez.
Wow.
There's just a thing. I grew up on this dude. I don't understand why I like him so much. I don't.
Let's take that mic away.
Hey, you can't.
No, dog. It's the Mexican style. I didn't even know that this was a Mexican style when I watched him.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like 10, 15 years later, I'm like, oh, this is a Mexican style. Underrated. His chin was immaculate. Every punch was concrete. I mean, it's hard for me to overlook that. It's hard for me not to take that into consideration. So, and my number one by default would have to be Iron.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Tyson.
That's ridiculous.
I love it. Iron Mike Tyson. We came here to set fires. I got a lighter. I got fuel.
I thought Roach was gonna do it, but he didn't.
No, I'm
you thought Roach was. I'm reading your mind.
Gotta do it. Someone has to do it.
I came with the right top 5.
I chose to do it.
He lost early in the 90s. He lost that undisputed championship.
That's cool.
Early.
He was in prison for 4 years.
Yeah, then he was in prison.
But to his point, he came out of jail and won the belt back. He did do that. That did happen.
He did win a belt.
He did win his belt back.
And then before he got incarcerated,
and then Holyfield happened.
He obliterated.
But I'm gonna say this in Tyson's defense. In the 5th round of that Holyfield Tyson fight, the first fight, Tyson was gaining momentum. He was doing pretty good, and he was gaining momentum in that fight. He just wasn't
hurting Holyfield.
But then in the 6th round, that's when he received that headbutt, and he was in a lot of pain. He got the cut, and then he got knocked down. And so I feel like that headbutt, because Lennox Lewis complained about that Holyfield headbutt, and that was a weapon he used to use, and that's what really
art of dirty boxing
that gave Holyfield the momentum, and he defeated Tyson.
Well, I love Mike Tyson, but I'm one of those people that I'm not giving him an out. You couldn't hurt him. You could not hurt Holyfield. You hit Holyfield. I'm Mike Tyson. I hit Holyfield with everything that I had when I felt like before the ear bite. This is the second fight.
But you put Tyson over Holyfield.
I did.
And Holyfield beat him twice.
Yeah. But I'm looking at body of work as well. I'm looking at body of work. Mike Tyson body of work bled into the 90s.
No.
It did not.
He lost the championship in 90. What was it, February?
You talking about
to Buster Douglas.
Was that 90?
Yeah, that was 90. Yeah, he lost to Buster Douglas in 1990.
Yeah,
1990.
And then didn't he come back and fight?
No, he came back
and won a championship.
He
lost jail.
No.
He came back and won a championship in the 90s.
He lost to Buster Douglas. Then he fought 4 more times. And then he went to jail in like 1992.
He won a championship.
He beat Razor Ruddock twice. before going to jail. He won 4 fights after he lost to Buster Douglas, but none of them was for a chip.
Right.
And then he went to prison
in
in '92, and then he came back in '96 and ended up fighting Holyfield.
Right.
Well,
who did he beat for the? Was it Frank Bruno? Who did he beat for the? He beat somebody.
That was before.
It was a piece of
that was
meat.
before.
Yeah,
Buster
it was a
Douglas,
piece of meat.
Was that the same?
Well,
thing?
personally, obviously, we've disclosed or uncovered that this is a personal pick.
It is. It is.
I didn't know it was, but yeah, we're dealing with it as it comes.
Let's get to Adi.
Mike Tyson is my number one.
All right, so just to clear the record, T.I.M.E had Tyson 1, Julio Cesar Chavez number 2, Roy Jones number 3,
Let's go.
Evander Holyfield number 4, and Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker at number 5. So Adi, how much did you both of these guys obviously said my list wasn't right. Do you also believe that my list ain't right either?
Yeah, I think everybody did something crazy. I think T.I.M.E did the craziest. Everybody did some wild stuff.
I was wild.
So let's get to the facts.
Here come the analytics, here come the numbers.
Okay.
Everybody did something crazy.
Number 5, I'm gonna agree with Roach. I got the Lion, Lennox Lewis.
Okay, so now you speaking my language. Okay.
He was the victim of the
here?
biggest robbery of the 90s when he went against Holyfield in March of 1999. That fight was a draw. He won the fight. He got his revenge in the rematch later on in November to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He's the last undisputed heavyweight we have ever seen until this day, until we're going to see what's going to happen with Usyk and the Gypsy King in a couple of months. But to this day, he's the last one. And Lennox Lewis, his legacy would have been elevated even more if Riddick Bowe didn't clearly duck him, okay?
Yeah.
In 1993, Lennox Lewis was Riddick Bowe's mandatory challenger. Rather than fighting him, he took the WBC belt and threw it in the trash, okay? And so then you get 4 years later, there was another opportunity for these two guys to fight again in '97, and rather than Riddick Bowe fighting Lennox Lewis, he decided to retire at the age of 29 years old. He was 2 years younger than Lennox Lewis, okay? And by the way, Lennox Lewis defeated Riddick Bowe in the 1992 Olympics, okay? So, and he ducked the man, okay? So I feel like
he couldn't beat him.
If you duck somebody, that's a win for the guy you ducked, in my opinion. You forfeited. Like, you made him look better than me, okay?
It's a lot of backstory to that, though.
That's why I put Lennox Lewis over Riddick Bowe in my top.
It's a lot of management. It's a lot of management, though. It's the same as like Top Rank versus
there probably was some stuff going on behind the scenes.
It's a lot of that.
Yeah, I can see that. Boxing always got some shit.
The politics are worse now, but they were still there.
It's a lot grayer than just saying Riddick Bowe ducks him.
But what it shows is he ducked him.
Yeah, he could have fallen in.
I don't know what
too.
He could have fallen.
Yeah. So number 4, I got rest in peace, Sweet Pea Whitaker.
Okay.
He was a victim of the second biggest robbery in the 90s against Julio Cesar Chavez. He was 87-0 and going into that fight in 1993. And so going into the final round, the 12th round, the commentator was like, it looks like Chavez needs a miracle to pull this one off. He didn't even win the 12th round, okay? So, and shockingly, the judges scored that a majority decision draw. And unofficially, Sweet Pea Whitaker was the first man to defeat Julio Cesar Chavez.
That should have been a win on his belt.
Definitely. And then that Oscar De La Hoya versus Sweet Pea Whitaker fight, that was a great fight. Sweet Pea actually countered Oscar De La Hoya with a double left hook in the 9th round and knocked him down. But Sweet Pea committed a blunder in the final round. He started showboating too much. Not enough offense, running around as if he had a lead, like he was protecting the lead, gave that 12th round away, and he lost the fight, okay? And I know he deeply regrets that and everything. So, number 3, I got the Golden Boy. I get Oscar De La Hoya. I agree with Roach with that one. So now Oscar De La Hoya.
You agree with me?
No, that's Byron.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have him in my top.
Oh, you didn't have Byron had him.
That was Byron.
Yes. I agree with Byron on that one. And like he said, he beat Julio Cesar Chavez twice. He stopped him both times. Hector Camacho, Ike Corte, and which led to the most anticipated non-heavyweight fight since Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard, and when in September 1999 versus Felix Tito Trinidad.
That was epic.
A guy that y'all haven't mentioned on this show until this point. So he went against Felix Trinidad in '99, and De La Hoya fought an excellent fight. He fought very great in the first half of that fight, even in the later rounds. But going into the 11th round, he committed the same blunder that Pernell Whitaker did against him, he took the final 2 rounds off. He was just running away like he was protecting the lead. He stopped being aggressive, and Tito was just coming at him, being with effective aggressiveness, coming at him, stalking him while Oscar's just running and not doing anything, and he gave away the final 2 rounds. If he would have just won one of those last 2 rounds, he would have won the fight, and so he gave it away. I know he definitely regret that. And so now, number 2, I've got Felix Tito Trinidad.
Oh boy.
At number 2 on the
I
90s list. He was a perfect 36-0 in the 90s. He went 30 knockouts, okay? Now, for the record, I had Oscar De La Hoya winning that fight, 116-114. But, like I said, it was a very close fight. One judge had a draw. Another judge had Oscar De La Hoya losing by 1 point, 115-114. Another judge had him losing by 2 points, 115-113. So like I said, if Oscar would have just won one of those last 2 rounds, he would have won the fight. He didn't get a rematch. I know he lost a lot of sleep over that, the approach he made in those last 2 rounds. He even said out of his mouth he thought he had the fight won in the last few rounds. Yeah. So, number 1, now, the 1990s Fighter of the Decade. I agree with you. Had Roy Jones number 1, right?
Absolutely.
Roy Jones Jr.
Yes.
Roy Jones Jr.
RJJ.
From 1980 all the way to this day, all the way to this present day, I don't think anybody at light heavyweight or below could defeat Roy Jones Jr. in his prime. Not Floyd Mayweather, not Bud Crawford,
best
not Marvis Hagler,
best prime
Sugar Ray Leonard. I agree with T.I.M.E. He had the best prime I've ever seen.
Best prime we've ever seen, bro.
He made Bernard. He made James Tony. He made
like
great
silly.
fighters
They
look
look
mediocre.
silly.
Okay, so Roy Jones Jr. He's my number 1 boxer in the 90s.
I love it. I love it. So on his list, Roy Jones Jr., Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, Sweet Pea, and Lennox Lewis. So you was close to my list.
Yeah, I think I was close.
I just didn't have Oscar or Felix, but you was on my list. So
Booty's list.
hey, great list. Roy Jones is the best fighter. Hey, I'll tell you right now, he had the best prime. Roy Jones' run was impeccable. We talking 90s boxers. We come up with our list, and we got Byrne helping us with that, schooling us. T.I.M.E. They both said my list was trash. It's okay. I'll be back. Adi almost agreed with me, but it was a couple different things. So we went to some top 5 boxers. So I'll give some honorable mentions right quick, and we can all just go through and see who was honorable mention. Like I had Evander Holyfield and Felix Trinidad as and De La Hoya. Another one I had in there, Sugar Shane Mosley.
Absolutely.
Sugar Shane Mosley came in.
That's nice.
And then Ricardo Lopez. Even though the only downfall I had him, he never changed weights. He fought like at 104, 105, but he was like, he had a great record. You know what I'm saying? So those was a couple honorable mentions. I'm pretty sure I'm missing somebody. Tion, any honorable mentions?
For me, y'all know my list. My list was Tyson, Chavez, Roy Jones, Holyfield, Sweet Pea. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like with this era, you were gonna at least leave 7 people off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's all personal preference. So my honorable mentions would be a man that's been said, Oscar De La Hoya. We know who he is. We know what he's been to the sport. We know what he's done in the sport. The Golden Boy. Lennox Lewis also has been said. These are my honorable mentions. You know what I'm saying? We know what he's in. Felix Trinidad. Felix Trinidad would be my 3. So I have 3 honorable mentions. That would be De La Hoya, Lennox Lewis, and Felix Trinidad.
Okay, I like it. Byron, who your honorable mentions?
Like I stated before, it's 20, 25 fighters that you can run down.
Yes.
Yes. And people will have some type of connection to. This is a great golden era of boxing.
The golden era.
For me, as the only one that left off Pernell Whitaker, of course, and it was very hard because I was, as most of us were, I was a Sweet Pea fan. Yeah. So Pernell Whitaker, and he was an undisputed lightweight champion, and he was a lineal welterweight champion as well. Yes, sir. And what left him off the list for me was, again, it was a heavyweight dominated division. I remember heavyweight fights. I remember my dad schooling me on boxing when it came to George Foreman versus Michael Moore. I will never forget that fight. it is tattooed in my brain where, as a young man, I'm telling my dad, it's no way this man's going to beat the Destroyer. The Destroyer's going to go through him. He's too old. He's too slow.
Right.
And I got the schoolage of the 1-2, the left, right.
Right.
And it was just, just the sport of boxing then with the heavyweight division, it was just beautiful, man, because anybody could lose. You didn't
really
go through a fight
it was really good
where it's like,
it was a
someone
toss-up.
is going to dominate. And
every fight
wasn't a lot of chess playing and who's the biggest draw. It was, I'm in front of you, you in front of me, and
whose game plan wins,
and let's see what's going to happen. And so that's why I had to put 3 heavyweights in my top 5, because it was just the heavyweight division was just everything to me. I would love to put Michael Moore there because I was a huge Michael Moore fan. But again, for me, it was Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker definitely. I would never argue him being on the top 5 of anybody's top 5 because he was a top 5 fighter in the 90s. But for me, it was just all about the heavyweight division.
I got you.
Yeah.
Adi, who your honorable mentions?
Well, I'll mention 3 guys. So, first one, terrible Terry Norris.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah. That guy.
Is that who ended De La Hoya's career?
He ended Sugar Ray Lewis' career.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray. That's
Sugar
what
Ray.
it was. Sugar Ray.
Yeah, 90. I believe it was 91.
It was bad.
It was bad. It was bad. He became the first man to defeat Sugar Ray Leonard since Roberto Duran did it in 1980.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
He knocked him down a couple of times. Once in the 2nd round, another in the 7th round.
The 7th round knockout was uncomfortable.
Yes, he was bleeding from the mouth. The commentator was like, man, they was hoping the ref stopped the fight, but Sugar Ray, that man got hurt, man. He kept.
Oh yeah, because he told them like, no, I'm going out there.
Yeah, he said he went out on his shield. He went out on his shield.
Yeah, and he was older.
He was 34 years old. Terry Norris was 23.
Jeez.
Sugar Ray did retire after that fight. He should have stayed retired. But he came back like 5 years later and got knocked out. So.
We ain't got to talk about that.
But terrible Terry Norris.
It wasn't a good decade.
Yeah, let's remember him at his best.
It wasn't.
Let's remember him at his best.
He kept going. But Terry Norris, he didn't just beat up on older fighters. He knocked out the 29-year-old former unified champ and 2019 International Boxing Hall of Famer Donald Curry. He knocked him out in the 8th round. He also knocked out the former IBF and WBA champ Mildred Taylor in the 4th round.
Mildred Taylor, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Mildred Taylor was pretty dope. And then by 1993, Terry Norris, he had 10 successful title defenses from 95 to 97. He won 9 straight fights. 8 of them was knockouts. He was well on his way to get this mega big payday against the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. Yeah. All he had to do was defeat the heavy underdog Keith Mullins, but he lost. 9th round TKO against Keith Mullins, and then Terry Norris will lose his next 2 fights. And he would retire at the age of 31 years old. No mega fight with Oscar De La Hoya, no mega fight with Felix Trinidad. Later on, he was diagnosed with the same syndrome that Muhammad Ali had, the Parkinson's disease. So, and the doctor said in his last few fights, he may have had the disease already. And so this sad story, a fight with Oscar would have been huge. That boy loved it. He was a brawler. He knocks people out.
That would have been a good fight.
Yeah. So Terry Norris, he's definitely honorable mention. Another one is the Prince, Nassim.
I knew he was gonna come up at some point. I knew it. I knew it.
He's the all-time best entertaining fighter of all time. He took the showmanship from Muhammad Ali and Roy Jones Jr. to a whole nother level. Elaborate ring entrances and everything. And he was like dancing around, flipping around.
He sold it.
He had
flips, acrobatics, all type of stuff.
He had knocking people out. He had like 33. He didn't lose a fight in the 90s. He did lose to the babyface assassin Marco Barrera. He beat him down pretty bad.
Antonio?
Marco Barrera, Marco Antonio Barrera. Yes. Yeah. And he lost to him, but that was 2001. Right. Okay, but in the 90s, my man Prince Nassim, he was the man. And so, and I do want to say I did leave Holyfield off my top 5. I will say I think the Buster Douglas February 1990 victory over Mike Tyson was the worst thing that happened to the real deal Holyfield. Because if Mike Tyson
that fight was supposed to be lined up.
That was the next fight.
Yeah.
Tyson was supposed to beat my man Buster Douglas, and then he was supposed to fight Holyfield in
exactly.
late 1990, then that would have gave Holyfield the opportunity to do what Smoking Joe Frazier did, be the first man to beat the best. Like he was the first man to beat Ali. Holyfield had the opportunity.
I agree.
Snatched away from him to be the first man, because Buster Douglas is like entrenched in boxing history just because he was the first man to beat Tyson.
The biggest upset ever.
Ever. So if Holyfield would have beat Tyson, his legacy would have been significantly higher. And he would have made my top 5.
And it would have been cemented earlier.
Yes.
It would have been cemented 4, 5, 6 years before we said, "Oh, okay, he's a Hall of Famer."
And then plus he would have fought Tyson
9-3
at Tyson.
Yes.
When Tyson
before prison Tyson.
He would have fought Tyson.
That would
have Yes.
He beat everybody. Seven title defenses.
Yeah. Tyson was a shell of his own.
I'm gonna be real though.
I mean,
T.I.M.E put Tyson number 1. I don't agree with it, but I will say this: Tyson was boxed. He still was the most box office fighter in the 90s.
And that's why
Holyfield beat him twice.
Yes.
Right, but the only reason I put him number 1, not because he didn't lose or all these other. Y'all explained everything perfectly, so eloquent. It was personal preference.
Yeah.
I came into the game off Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And it was 90 before he got beat. Yeah. Right before he got beat. You know what I mean?
But you look at the. I think what makes Evander Holyfield special is look at the landscape.
Yeah.
We talking Riddick Bowe. We talking Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
We talking Andrew Galata.
Even though George Foreman was still old, he came back and beat him.
Exactly.
This
was Bruno. Yeah.
Razor monster division. These guys were big.
The problem with
Holyfield was small, but
212.
It's the manner where he fought them. He fought these guys on the inside.
Yeah.
He didn't. This wasn't a run around the ring.
That was his game.
It was a throw. He was a throwback fighter. I will always remember my father used to call him that. He was just a throwback fighter. He was a fighter that he was undersized. He had the dirty boxing. I'm not going to sit here and say that you wouldn't fight him and get headbutt, because you will.
Correct.
But the thing is, if you fighting a 6-footer, this was boxing. This was boxing back in the day.
And they labeled him at 6 foot, but we know he's probably 5'10"ish.
Yeah. He came into the 90s older. He was 28 years old when the 90s began. He already had 23 fights. He already had 5 title defenses. He already fought for 7 years. So he was kind of older. He was a cruiserweight. He moved up to heavyweight. He was already kind of older when he entered the 90s, which kind of hurt him.
Yeah.
And then in my book, plus he lost to Riddick Bowe 2 out of 3 times. He lost to Lennox Lewis twice. Unofficially, but officially once. But Lennox Lewis really beat him twice.
I think the Riddick Bowe fights kind of cemented, because he wasn't. Let's be honest. There's no way he should have been able to compete the way he did in those fights against Riddick Bowe.
And those are some hellacious fights.
And that's my point. There is no way to compete. Even the fights he lost. I remember pundits saying like, "Jeez Louise,
he's competitive.
Evander Holyfield shouldn't even have been in this fight."
I'm telling you, when you think about, when you think about the heavyweight division in the 90s,
his impact is.
You say Evander Holyfield.
Yeah, he's number 6. He's number 6.
That was the fight. That was the fight for me.
Really number 6?
He's number 6 on my
list. We could go back and we could tell fighters of the day, like, you don't even with the diva type activity that was happening around him with the Riddick Bowe's and Lennox Lewis. And
he didn't duck nobody.
He ducked nobody.
Whoever was there.
Right. And so a lot of people, they'll understand, like, why do you have this? Why do you feel this way about New Age boxing? And I can tell this story based on my picks on the people that I used to watch. Like, man, I'm used to this being a gladiator sport. I'm used to seeing gladiators that want to get in the ring and say, you know what, I'm going to give you 12 rounds to knock me from country.
Who's next?
I'm coming at you.
Who's the best fighter I can fight?
And for me, it will always be like, he beat my hero. He beat Mike Tyson.
Yeah, true.
He beat Mike Tyson twice. I told everybody, there's no way he's going to beat Tyson. And he manhandled and beat Tyson.
The second fight was uncomfortable.
And so for me, I mean, I understand.
Let's be honest. Mike Tyson hit him with everything he could muster up.
Holyfield was different.
That's my point.
He was a different.
Mike Tyson hit him with everything that Allah could bring to the table.
Now look. Before we end, I want to say something about what Byron said about Sweet Pea Whitaker.
Yes,
okay. Sweet Pea Whitaker, before his fight in '99 against Felix Trinidad. His 1997 fight victory over Pisraev was downgraded to a no contest because he tested positive for cocaine.
Right.
And so
steroids.
he was suspended. He was suspended, and then he failed another drug test. He was supposed to fight.
It was 6 months, and then he came back.
He was supposed to fight Ike Cortez in 1998, but then it was canceled because he failed another drug test. Okay, and he had to go to drug rehab and everything. And then he fought Felix Trinidad. Trinidad knocked him down with a straight right hand in the second round, and that was the first time in his career he got beat convincingly. Okay, it was. I watched that fight. It was like sad to watch, because he was getting beat down by Felix Trinidad. Okay, and then later on he fought one more time and he got knocked out, and that was the end of his career. And so what I believe is from '97 when he fought De La Hoya, because his trainer told him that if you would have threw more punches against De La Hoya, you would have beat him. And I feel like his outside the ring and inside the ring, Cornell Whitaker, his like mental state and his career just took a downturn after that De La Hoya loss. And then he fought Trinidad.
Even in De La Hoya, he was in his 30s when he fought De La Hoya.
But that was a great fight, though. That was a great fight. He could have won that
fight. They say he wasn't prepared as he normally is for a fight.
But what I was saying was, it was he fought him when he was longer in the tooth. That's what I was saying. It wasn't so much that he was out of the realm of not winning that fight.
Right.
But he didn't fight the best version.
It wasn't the best version of himself.
And so, and again, Pernell Whitaker he had a lot of bad, like it's a sad story. Like Adi said it perfectly. It's a sad story. And I just remember the losses. I remember when he got robbed. Like, I remember, like, my father was pissed.
I think a lot of people
when he lost to Julius Caesar.
Because ain't no way he lost that fight.
Because there's no way he lost that fight. So it was just like, for me, not to downgrade his greatness, because I'm not, but a lot of his memorable moments were like some of the lowest points of his career. That's all.
I get it.
Good point.
Yeah, and that was my main reason to put Lennox Lewis over Evander Holyfield, because he, at the end of the day, Lennox Lewis beat Holyfield.
I feel like Lennox was going to be there on most of
his highlights were
Lennox did something that didn't happen again for another 20-some years.
Right.
So that's why it was. I figured he was going to be on everyone's.
We can do this all day. We gotta go ahead, but man, I want to thank Byron. I want to thank T.I.M E, my co-host Adi the Architect. You watching Spectator Sporting. Make sure you go on YouTube, subscribe to that Spectator Sporting. Also, go on Spotify. Follow us. We on there. Leave comments. Until then,
subscribe.
Roy Jones is the best.
Roy Jones #1. I'm still mad. Nope, I'm the only one that showed Bernard Hopkins some love, but that's weird. That'll be another time. That'll be another time. We out. Peace, y'all.